Hello, friends, and welcome to the Bikes or Death podcast. As always, my name is Patrick, and I'm your host. And on today's episode, I got my friend Seth DuBois here to talk all things Silk Road Mountain Race. The Silk Road is in its fourth iteration. It started in 2018, and this year was their biggest year yet. Like many of you, this race has captivated my attention. An area of the world that was previously unknown to me is now very much in my sights. The Silk Road boasts 1,120 miles and 100,000 feet of climbing. The race starts at midnight, and the highest pass is Gyptic Pass, which is 13,730 feet. Now, I don't know who's in charge of ranking these races in terms of toughness, but there is definitely an argument to be made that Silk Road is at the top of that list. The attrition rate for this race is over 50%. It depends on the year, but any way you slice it, just completing this route is an absolute victory. My guest today, Seth, was the 37th place finisher, and he didn't finish without his own trials and tribulations, his own internal battle, and his battle with illness, and a slight run-in with some locals that could have gone a different direction. I first met Seth whenever he reached out to me about coming down to the East Texas Showdown to make a film about our 2022 race, which he did, and that is available now and easy to find. You can go to his YouTube channel, which is Experience by Bike, and you can find that if you want to check that out. Also there, you can see the other two films that he's done, which are excellent and also worth a watch. I really appreciate Seth coming on the podcast. I am obsessed with this race like many of you are, and it was an absolute pleasure to listen to his story about his experience on this year's Silk Road Mountain Race. But before we get into it, let me make a quick announcement about my race, another epic race. You got the Tour Divide, you got Silk Road, and you got East Texas Showdown. Okay, maybe we don't belong in that list exactly, but I do have an important announcement. This past Friday, we opened registration to 150 souls, and it sold out in 4 hours, which shocked me and many of you. Last year, we opened it up to 100 and sold out in 4 days, which was also incredible. But I don't know if anybody really expected this year to sell out so quickly. We are beyond grateful and humbled and surprised by the interest in our little event here out in East Texas. And we have received countless emails and messages from people who weren't able to register because they didn't realize it was going to sell out so quickly, or they were working and couldn't get away, or whatever it may be. And so here is what we're going to do. You still have a chance. If you want to get into this year's East Texas Showdown, Slowdown, or Lowdown, we are opening up 36 more spots. So if you're interested, here's what you need to know. This Saturday, September 10th at 2 p.m., registration will go live over at bikereg.com for 12 spots in each category. So we're going to open up 12 in the Showdown, 12 in the Lowdown, and 12 in the Slowdown. Now, it's important to note that you can switch categories after you register. So if you're gunning for the Showdown and they're all filled, grab whatever is available and we can switch your category after you are registered. After this, there will be no more spots. We will open up a waiting list, and there may be some opportunities to get in that way. But as far as guaranteed spots, this is your last chance. We are limited by our venue, by permitting, and by insurance. So we're opening up 36 more, and then that's it. So if you want in, This is your chance. Saturday, September 10th at 2 p.m. You can go to the Bikes for Death website, and we have a link there at the very top for the East Texas Showdown where you can learn everything you need to know. You can also just go to bikereg.com and type in East Texas Showdown. But no matter what you do, please be advised that if you want in, be ready, be fast, because these last 36 spots are gonna go fast. Before we get to today's episode, let's take a minute to thank the people that made it possible, starting with our latest batch of patrons. And as a reminder, Hefe Bike is matching patron donations for a limited time. So now is a great time to sign up as a supporting member of the podcast. And a huge shout out to Hefe Bike for their support. If you'd like to say thank you to them and show them some e-commerce love, you can find them over at hefe.bike. All right, our newest batch of patrons are Tim Lafferty, Matthew Annabelle, Cedar Blanchard, Christopher Bartling, Jeff Henn, and Christian Meinke. Thank y'all so much for signing up to support the podcast. Again, all of your contributions were doubled by Hefe Bike. Big shout out to y'all for signing up and to Hefe for doubling up your contributions. If you would like to get in on the action, you can find out more over at patreon.com/bikesfordeath. Today's episode is also brought to us by Ombra's sunglasses, the revolutionary sunglasses that don't have arms. They have a lanyard that is super comfortable and convenient. They're always around your neck. You never have to lose them. And never again will you be asking your mom where your sunglasses are. You've seen these sunglasses on the face of very important bikepacking influencers like John Watson, Sarah Swallow, and yours truly. And if you'd like to get yourself a pair, Ombras wants to make it super easy for Bikes for Death listeners. If you use the code BOD20 at checkout, you will get $20 off your order, and they will send Bikes for Death a check for $20. Which is absolutely incredible. And if you would like to take advantage of this offer, all you got to do is go to ombraz.com. That's OMBRAZ.com. Use the code BOD20 at checkout. Get yourself a $20 discount and send $20 to your favorite podcast. All right. And we'd like to make another announcement. I got Shane here to talk to us about the upcoming Red Granite Grinder. All right, everybody. We got Shane Hitz back on the Bikes for Death podcast. Shane, welcome back.
Hey, Patrick. How's it going?
Good. Well, we're going to talk more about the Red Granite Grinder, which is your race coming up this October. But before we get into it, let's just remind people real quick that you and I recorded an entire episode 125 recently, all about Wisconsin bikepacking and gravel grinding. And we go into good detail about the Red Granite Grinder for a good 30 minutes there. So for anybody who's interested in more details, that's an excellent resource to check out. But for people who haven't had a chance to check out that episode yet, tell us, what is the Red Granite Grinder?
The Red Granite Grinder is a gravel race, but I do combine a lot of private land segments. So it draws from my experience with bikepacking, and you'll see that on the course with all the off-road segments and single track.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, one of the cool things that you've done that I really like is you've gotten private landowner access. So people who ride these routes, you're going to be on roads that you won't be able to ride at any other time other than going on this race, which is a huge bonus and a huge credit to you as a race director and your team over there. I know that y'all work together tightly to make these things happen. When and where is this race?
This race is on October 15th, and it's in Wausau, Wisconsin. So it's directly in the middle of the state.
Yeah. And what options are available to people? You have quite a few.
Yeah, we have a 50-mile ride or race and an 85-mile race and 144 and a 12-mile kids race.
And are those all on the same day?
Yeah, they're all on the same day. So the 50, 85, and 144 start at 7 in the morning, and the 12-mile is at 3 in the afternoon.
Oh, okay. Very good. And I guess we should let people know that you and I are going to be riding in one of the pre-race events that y'all have going on, a little group ride for people who want to come out and say hi to you and get some local Wisconsin knowledge, or come out and say hi to me all the way from Texas. When are we going to be doing that?
So we have two rides. We have one on Thursday and we have one on Friday, the days before the race. So the one on Thursday is a little bit longer. That's a 60-mile ride. And the one on Friday is an easy spin. It's a 25-mile ride. And they're both on like 90% gravel.
Oh, nice. And I believe you and I are doing the 25-mile ride as a group ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've already had some people contact me and tell me that they're coming out just to say hi. So that'll be pretty cool. Now, the pre-rides, those 25 and 60-mile options, do you have to register for the race to do those? Or are those free, or how does that work?
Those are free to anybody. So we want to build more of a community around this event and draw people from in the community and to do those gravel rides. And so anybody can come out and do those.
I think that's freaking awesome. So anybody who's in the area should come out and ride those routes. Come say hi, even if you can't do the race. Tell me, Shane, what is something that you think makes the Red Granite Grinder special?
For sure, it's got to be the private land sections, because I don't know of any races that are like that. And I did add some more private land sections this year, which we're really excited about. So that adds a little bit extra toughness to it. And then we have some hills at the beginning. You're going to be climbing 800 feet up Rib Mountain and over Rib Mountain. Those trails are not accessible any other time of the year. And then towards the end of the course is Billy Goat Hills. Those are some tough hills for Wisconsin. I think people coming here will be really surprised at how steep our hills are.
Hey, but you always get the joy of going down the other side. So, there's always a payoff there. So if people are ready to register, where can they go to find out more information?
ironbull.org.
Perfect. And we will include that in the show notes as well. Again, remember to go check out episode 125 with Shane here. We dive deep into all things Red Granite Grinder and bikepacking in Wisconsin. Thanks for coming on, Shane.
Thanks so much, Patrick.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. The bills have been paid. The lights are on for one more week. And now it is time to get to my interview with my good friend, Seth DuBois, all the way from Kyrgyzstan, to tell us about his recent experience at the Silk Road Mountain Race. But before we get into it, let's have Miles Arbor kick it off with the Bikes or Death theme song.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You could be with your friends or you could be alone. You ride for a day or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, to yourself. You left that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf. Bikes or death. Bikes or death. Podcast.
Is your name Seth DuBois?
That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Nailed it.
First question. You're fresh off the Silk Road Mountain Race. What got beat up worse, you or your bike?
Oh, I would definitely say me. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. The bike it operated flawlessly. It was pretty amazing.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Because if you watch any of the films, anything they put out about the Silk Road, you're seeing a lot of bike destruction. So a lot of flat tires, a lot of mechanicals, broken bikes, chains are an issue. I do want to talk about your setup, so we'll pause on your setup for a moment. And
sure.
But how are you feeling then? Are you recovering?
I'm recovering pretty well. I'm sleeping a lot and I'm eating a lot still.
When did you finish? And so today is Wednesday, right? Today's Wednesday.
Yeah. Yep.
The 30th or something. 31st.
31st.
Yeah, Wednesday the 31st. Do you know when you finished and when you got back to America?
Yeah, I think so the race started on the 12th, and then I finished on I think it was a Wednesday, 23rd, because it was just over 11 days. And so I finished on a Wednesday. Was it a Wednesday? Yeah. I believe I finished on a Wednesday, and then I flew back to the US on Saturday. So I've been here for like half a week now.
Okay. So yeah. And no real lingering like pains or anything, mostly just tired and hungry.
Tired and hungry. I have numb toes. My big toes are numb. My like ring finger and pinky fingers are numb. And I've got a lot of flaky skin from from getting sunburnt.
Oh, bad sunburn? Like 3rd degree, 2nd degree, do you know?
Not too bad. I was wearing like UV arm sleeves most of the time, but there were a couple days where I decided not to, and just didn't apply enough sunscreen, and that got me, along with my nose.
Yeah. Oh, your nose looks good right now. You don't have to cut it off yet.
Yeah.
You've done some, longer events before. Do you normally have like hand issues and the foot kind of? I mean, that's pretty normal stuff for most people.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say anything over like 2 to 3 days. I get the numbness, and it lasts for like a couple weeks to a month or so.
Yeah. Well, so for the listeners, you just got back from Silk Road It's not mountain bike race. I thought it was mountain bike race up until I started researching for this show, and I just never paid attention. But it's Silk Road mountain race, so I might have to correct myself a couple times. But I believe you got 31st place,
something like that. Yeah.
No, 37th. I think that's what my notes say. 37th place. Which is freaking badass, man. Like the whole idea of going, for me, Silk Road, and I think for a lot of people, is really exciting. It's new. It's got a lot of media around it. They've done just a great job from a spectator's point of view of putting on a great event. I know you came to the showdown, you did a film, and I was watching your dot the whole time. So I wanted to hear about Silk Road, man. I'm excited. And I think a lot of people are pretty interested in Silk Road. I mean, they got you all the way over there, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I appreciate it. It was, to me, I think of it kind of like it's almost like this plus Tour Divide are kind of like, like the Super Bowl of the sport in a way. It's something that's, kind of high on the list for most people, and just incredibly intriguing. So, that certainly drew me. Like you mentioned, the media is really cool. They have awesome coverage for participants, or for spectators, which is obviously a huge bonus as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking that same thing. I was looking at it like this. I wonder for we have the Tour Divide, and then if we're going over to like that other land mass that they have Silk Road, and it is kind of those two races. Tour Divide is the one that would attract people to go through great lengths logistically, flying, and all the things that are involved with coming to a new country. You might not know the language, but at the same time, Silk Road is getting people from America and all over, really drawing in people from all over to go to a place that I guarantee 99% of the people that race in it, if you had asked them, where is Kyrgyzstan on a map, they couldn't have pointed it out. But that hasn't prevented them from having a huge draw. And this is their 3rd or 4th year.
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I think
it's their 3rd.
Yeah.
I think it's a skipping COVID thing.
There was, right. Yep, exactly.
I think that's what the deal is. But it's their 3rd or 4th year, and they've just garnered a mass amount of followers and attention and participants from all over the world. And I'm not gonna lie, they got me. I'm super interested in it. I am 1,000% gonna reach out to the race organizers and see if I can be there next year on their media team, or just if they mind me going, because I want to be there. I don't want to race it. I would tour it, if I had like 3 weeks, but it looks brutal, man. It looks absolutely brutal. But so before we get into all the Silk Road talk, let's just get to know you for just a second. I don't think you're from Kyrgyzstan. I think you're from, or you live in Portland right now.
Yeah.
I know you
Portland,
live
Oregon.
in Portland. Is that where you're from?
Originally from Albany, New York.
Oh, wow. On the other side. What brought you to Portland and Oregon?
Yeah, I moved out. I graduated college in 2010, and then I was looking to move to the West Coast. I was really interested in like Colorado or Arizona. I spent a lot of years running competitively, and so the West Coast interested me for that reason, because I was looking to do marathon running competitively. But a good friend of mine that I was training with in college, he was living in Corvallis, where they had kind of like a post-collegiate marathon development team. And he was like, "Hey man, I know you're interested in moving to the West Coast. Consider Oregon, coming to Corvallis. We can split expenses." And so that was intriguing enough for me to move out in, I think it was November 2010. I lived in Corvallis for about 5 or 6 years. And then I met some friends in Portland, and I was like, oh, Portland's a really cool city. So moved to Portland, and I've been here for over 5 years now.
Nice. So Emily that works for Bikes or Death. A lot of people might hear her name pop up, but you got to meet her at the showdown. She and I were just on the phone talking 2 days ago, and we were talking about places we would want to live, and when we were talking about Oregon being the reality is I've never been to Oregon. I've only seen pictures, but I know y'all got the ocean. You've got Portland, so you got like a dope big city with cycling infrastructure and all the good things that come with a big city. But then you have the desert, you have the mountains, you have the beach. I mean, it's all like right there. So is Portland, Oregon, like one of the best places to live, you think? Like, should I move there too?
I'd highly recommend it. Yeah, I love it. I love being Portland's it's a nice bonus because it's relatively centrally located. I mean, it's not Central Oregon, but there's a lot of bonuses to being in Portland. Like you mentioned, the coast is really close. When I moved out here, 5 years after I moved out here, my mom moved out here and she moved to the coast. So now I have family that's like 2 hours away, right on the coast. We've got Bend close by, which is kind of like high desert mountain area. And then there's just a lot of awesome gravel riding within like 2 hours. And then mountains like Mount Hood.
Is it expensive to live there?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the downfall for sure.
That's the bummer. I'm back to Arkansas. It's cheap there.
Yeah. Great trails there, I hear.
Yeah. No, I mean the outdoor rec in Arkansas is amazing, but man, that Oregon, it just seems like it really does have a little bit of everything. I don't know if I'd leave either if I were you. So I know that you do a lot in the bike industry. That's how I'm aware of you. I don't know if you actually have a 9-to-5 job or whatever. Like, is bike packing and everything your full-time gig or what?
No, that'd be awesome. Definitely kind of the end goal. Whether it be like media involved, photography, videography side of things. But yeah, right now I work for Cash App.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I work in the anti-money laundering side of things.
Okay. What degree or expertise do you need to do that job?
Expertise is, for me, it was mostly in the banking industry. I was working in credit unions for a little over 5 years. And then that kind of like compliance aspect got me into working for fintech. In terms of degree, I have a degree in exercise science, so that wasn't applicable at all.
Whoa. That is so crazy. That seems like a pretty important job. I mean, you're fighting money laundering for a very big, well-known money app, but you don't have like a degree in it. That's interesting.
Yeah. It's I think it's pretty cool how I kind of landed into it. When I moved to Corvallis, I was looking at like physical therapy assistant jobs, and there was nothing available, and I found my way into being a bank teller. And then from there, I just kind of went into being a loan officer, an underwriter, and I found myself here.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild, man. It's so interesting. Like, my perception of you is like you just do bikes. You go and film other bike races. You do a podcast. You write articles. You take pictures. I mean, like that is my outside perspective of you. I would have no idea that you're doing that. So you're doing a good job fooling me.
Yeah.
But I always think it's interesting because it's like, man, it's always impressive how much stuff people do. I mean, if you have a full-time job, I know you have a partner. Yeah. I know that you do a lot of media projects, and you're also doing your own races, which means you're training for those things. Like, you're probably pretty busy. I'm guessing you don't sit still very, very often or very frequently.
Yeah, I'd say so. I'm super fortunate where it's a 100% remote job. So it gives me a lot of flexibility, and I can kind of make my own schedule. So I'm really grateful for that, allowing me to do these other projects and races. So
you're like the Frank Abernathy of Cash App. Oh, wait, no, but you're the Frank Abernathy after he became good, like, and started working for the FBI or whatever.
Yeah, I can't say I'm as good as him, but I'll take it.
Maybe you're better. You don't know. Undiscovered talent. The calls will come in after this podcast.
Yeah, it works for me.
So Experience by Bike, that's your company, your brand, and people might also be familiar with that through some of your, some of the work you've done. What is Experience by Bike for people who don't know? And what is Experience by Bike?
Yeah, good question. I'd say It's mostly it started off. I was just really interested in kind of doing a bikepacking podcast. That was a couple of years ago, and so I started Experience by Bike as a podcast, and probably got like 14 or 15 episodes in before it fizzled a little bit. I haven't had an episode for over a year, but I'd say it's more of kind of like my kind of like media production side of things, because I've been doing the film work for about a year and a half now, where I've made 3 short documentaries about bikepacking races. And I launched a YouTube video or a YouTube channel, Experience by Bike, where I'm posting those videos. So I'd say now at this point, it's more visual media focused with the YouTube channel.
Yeah. So I'm curious, obviously, as a podcaster, you're still doing media, you're still creating content, you're still telling stories, but you're doing it in a visual way. Is there a reason that you made that transition?
I would say, yeah, that's a good question. All right, I won't keep saying that's a good question.
Well, you say all of them are good questions.
Yeah.
Won't hurt my feelings. But maybe it's just a time. I mean, your time probably is limited. Video projects are huge. I don't know.
I'm interested in kind of like experimenting with all different types of forms of media or mediums. So I tried podcasting. I do enjoy it. I am kind of interested in getting back into it a little bit. But the video side of things really interests me, because one of my big passions is photography and videography in general. So I think when I first started the podcast, my thought process was when I started learning about bike packing, I kind of just like consumed everything I could in regards to articles, interviews, YouTube videos, podcast episodes. So I was like, I'd like to kind of give back in a way by providing my own content. And I chose to do a podcast where I was pretty new to bike packing, and so I wanted to interview people who were more experienced and get input from them, their experiences of bike packing, and so that's what got me into the podcast side of things. But yeah, I'd say just in terms of general interest, the photography and videography side of things is really kind of where my like heart and passion lay. So it kind of just like transferred over there.
Yeah. Well, if anybody is interested, I think you did 17 or 18 episodes and they're still on iTunes, and yeah, worth a listen. If you run out of Bikes for Death to listen to, you can go check those out.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah, there's a lot of people dying for more bike pack. I mean, you were one of them, and you created content. I was one of them, and I created content. I mean, there's a lot of interest in these stories. So yeah, you could definitely have some good interviews. You got Jenny Tuff was the last one you done, and I need to get her. I'd like to. I can't assume she's going to come on, but I'd love to have her on sometime.
Oh yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah. So I was surprised on your website that you didn't actually link it to your YouTube and any of your media, your videos that you've done. Have you just been busy, or are you trying to keep those two separate?
Oh no, it's just super dated. I haven't. Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't touched it in like a year and a half.
Okay. All right. So I wanted to point people to a good place to find the films that you've done. You said you've done 3 so far. You've done mine, and then what are the other 2 that you've done?
Yeah, I did one on the Big Lonely. That was my first film, and that's a bike packing race in Oregon. That's about 350 miles. That's in Bend. So I did that one, and then I did a video about the race that I put on, which is called the Odyssey of the Valley of the Giants, which is also in Oregon, mainly in like the Salem, Tillamook area. Also about 350 miles. So those are on the YouTube channel, Experience by Bike.
What is the difference between your route and the Big Lonely? They're both similar in like the area, right, and the distance. Yeah, what's the difference there?
The difference is so the Big Lonely is in Central Oregon, where it's a lot more kind of like high desert. It occurs I think it's in October, and so it gets a little colder towards the latter end of the race, because you climb a pretty big mountain. So there have been, I think last year there have been instances of snow. It's also at elevation, I think between like 4,000 to 8,000 feet. And then for mine, being that it's in Salem and Tillamook, it's more kind of sea level. Excuse me. A lot more focused on like gravel roads, gravel forest roads that lead out to the Oregon coast. So it's a little bit more like coastal. You're probably gonna get a lot more rain than you will in Central Oregon. So they're kind of just like different flavors.
You had me until the rain.
Yeah. This past year was absolutely horrible.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. You went and covered Jesse's event, and did he race in yours?
Nope, he hasn't raced in mine yet.
He needs to get out there. I need to get out there. I should come. I was trying to decide which one. I think we'll do yours, and I'll just bring an umbrella. It'll be fine.
Yeah, there you go. One of those umbrella hats.
Yeah, but we need to invent the umbrella bike helmet. That would be the next bestseller. You got the Camp and Go Slow rattlesnake tape, and then the Bikes for Death bike helmet umbrella. I mean, you just can't beat that.
Definitely.
Plug your event, man. Plug your race. When is it? And yeah, when is it?
Yeah, odysseyofthevog.com. That's the website. It's typically occurs during Memorial Day weekend. And yeah, Yeah, we've had this will be the third year. Me and my good friend Ben Handrich were the race directors of it. It's an awesome event. It's kind of we like to have it more community focused, where it starts at a location where people can camp out the night before. We typically have a raffle that acts as a fundraiser for the Oregon Timber Trail, which is an association that focuses on creating a lot of beautiful single track trails throughout Oregon. And yeah, it's a fun event. It's pretty challenging. I think 350 miles typically, with just over 30,000 feet of elevation gain. The climbs are long, steep, and pretty loose gravel. So if you're looking for a challenge and looking to potentially get wet, then it's a good event.
How many friends are you going to be challenging yourself with and getting wet with?
I think I'd say the past 2 years it's been about 20 to 40 people. Typically the finish rate has been around 50%, if I remember correctly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's definitely challenging.
Yeah, that's surprising. The way you described it at first didn't seem too challenging. But what is the challenging aspect? I mean, loose gravel, some rain, like what's making it a challenge? I mean, not to say, obviously all of it is hard. I'm not trying to downplay it, but a 50, like the Silk Road had about a 50% attrition rate and
right.
yours as well. So, I mean, that's pretty high.
Yeah, I think this year it was mostly attributed to the rain. I think that it's easy to. I don't believe everybody was. People were prepared enough just for the density of rain that comes on the coast. So by day one, there were a lot of people that their gear was just like completely soaked through. And I think that played a major factor.
Yeah. Well, we saw from the first East Texas showdown what rain will do to people's spirits and to their bikes. It's a destructive force. That's cool. I'd like to make it out to yours. It's so far away, but you already know that. But you've been to mine. I think I should come and check yours out.
Yeah, you've got a place to stay.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, on the side of a gravel road, right?
Yeah.
So, what was the transition for you from running into cycling or bike packing? Were you always a cyclist? Give us the highlights on your introduction to bike packing in this crazy world of Kyrgyzstan.
Yeah, I ran competitively through like middle school, high school, college, and I was always pretty injury prone. Largely both my Achilles. I always got pretty bad Achilles tendonitis, and I've got a good amount of scar tissue that developed on both of them. So I transitioned to, not really transitioned, but I started cross training via cycling around my senior year of college. And there's this one ride I did that was about 60 miles. It was the longest I'd ever gone. Prior to that, I was doing maybe like 1 or 2 hour rides. And so my team had all left for a meet. And that weekend I was like, all right, I'm going to go ride around this lake near my college, and 60 or 70 miles. And it was just incredibly freeing to me. I was like, holy cow, I can go this distance on my own, just like spend the day on the bike. And that kind of just like opened my eyes.
And it doesn't hurt.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The Achilles doesn't flare up.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, if you're a person who loves to push yourself, to be outside, to use your bike as a vehicle, and you're having pain, I mean, we can gloss over it, but the reality is I bet that was pretty troubling to you as a person who was like hardcore into running. It's probably like, oh no, what am I going to do? And so the contrast of that to like being able to go and ride your bike and be like, oh man, this is a whole nother thing I can do. I'm putting words in your mouth, but that's what I'm picturing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's very true. And to be able to one of the things I really enjoyed about running is going new places and seeing new things, and you can really just expand upon that when you're on a bike.
Yeah. So when was that that you went on that 60-mile ride? Like how long ago was that?
I'd say that was about 2009.
Okay, so we're 13 years ago, if my fuzzy math is right. So when did you get into bike packing then? How long have you been doing bike packing?
So bike packing is when I moved to Portland. I'd say 2018. A friend told me about well, first of all, I saw Inspired to Ride. And that was like the big kind of spark for me. And so that got me into, looking at YouTube videos, that type of stuff. And one of my friends, DBR, David Barstow Robinson, he told me about this race in Oregon called the Steens Mazama, which is a 1,000-mile road ultra, which is bike packing, self-supported. And so I signed up for that in, I think it was 2019, 2018. Yeah. And that was my first bike packing event. And it was, it was really eye-opening. I tried the whole sleep deprivation thing. I had hallucinations. I, slept in a bivvy, all that fun stuff. And
Did you finish it?
Yeah. I did finish. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. That's the full experience then. I mean, if you get the hallucinations and sleep deprivation and you sleep in a busy and you finish, you're done. You can retire from bike packing.
Right. You do the thing.
We got into bike packing about the same time. I was 2017. It was actually March 2017, I believe, but yeah, about the same time. So I have some perspective as where you were at as a bikepacking community around that same time. And it was 2018 whenever I started the podcast.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Just like you, not a ton of experience, and trying to approach it from that perspective of, just a person getting into bikepacking and hopefully asking some of the questions that might appeal to, the regular people out there that don't do this for a living, that don't know everything already. And I think there's a lot of value in that. Like most of us don't know it all. And the only way to get it is in the title of your company or brand, Experienced by Bike. Like that is, you can read everything you want and consume all the podcasts and watch all the YouTube channels, but you got to get out there and experience it for yourself.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
You've done, let's see. Here's my list. The BC Epic, Utah Mixed Epic, the is it Steens Marzana? Steins Marzana?
Steens Mazama.
Oh, Mazama. Steens Mazama, 1000, the Oregon Outback, and now the Silk Road. Are there any other big ones that I missed?
I've done I did the Smoke and Fire 400 in Idaho. And this year I did the what was it? It was in California. I don't remember.
You don't remember the name of the race you did?
Yeah.
Seth, are you on drugs?
No, I can't say so.
Are you hallucinating right now?
Was it the Pioneer? Yeah, Pioneer 400.
I haven't heard of that one either. Pioneer. I don't know why I'm writing it down. I guess I'll have it for my show notes at some point. So yeah,
Stagecoach.
Stagecoach.
Yeah.
I have heard of that one. The Stagecoach 400. Yeah. So I mean, you've done you have a pretty impressive resume for getting into bikepacking in 2018. I'm curious from the experiences that you've had, the races that you've done, or even the route, I mean, whether it was a race or not, but which one has been your favorite and which one has been the most challenging before Silk Road? We'll talk about Silk Road later, but up until Silk Road, which one was your most challenging and which one has been your favorite event?
I would say the Utah Mixed Epic for most challenging. And then my favorite was I'd say a tie between the Utah Mixed Epic and the BC Epic.
Okay. So what did you like so much? Like, because Utah, you said it was your most challenging and maybe the most beautiful. I guess that's not surprising. Utah is so freaking beautiful. What makes that route challenging?
Yeah, Utah, it was incredible. The challenging aspect was the duration. So I think it was just over 850 miles. It took me 5 or 6 days, and there are some segments where it's just incredibly remote and desert. So for that year, there were still some wildfires happening. So there were sections where the air was a bit smoky. The desert sections were over 100 degrees and pretty limited in regards to water sources. And then the temperature range for the whole race, there were days that were over 100 degrees, and then there were nights that were I'd say low to mid 20s. So you just kind of had to be prepared for everything.
Did you get any rain the year you did it?
No, I don't believe so. Yeah.
It was this year or last year. I'm trying to remember when they got just a ton of rain and you saw a lot of pushing through mud. And I mean, desert and rain. I mean, the desert needs the rain, but man, if it rains, it adds a whole nother challenge. So yeah, that's one of those routes that, and he also changes it every year, I believe. So it's never exactly the same route, which is pretty cool. And also Tim is doing a lot of, I mean, that's just a lot of work to just keep revamping the route and changing it up every year. But that's what I've seen from the outside is, I mean, you're in a desert, which is a harsh and brutal landscape. It could be super hot, super cold, not a lot of water. And if it rains, it's going to add a whole nother element. And so, yeah, that one seems very challenging from an outsider's perspective.
Yeah. I'd say in terms of preparation for the Silk Road Mountain Race, or just getting kind of experience under your belt, because Utah is at elevation, and Tim likes to throw in some pretty technical stuff as well, like rocky hike a bike, that type of stuff. It was an awesome way to prepare for Silk Road.
Oh, good tip. Yeah. When did you do Mix Epic?
That was 2020.
Okay. Was it before COVID?
It was kind of like right in the middle of it. Yeah, or maybe just before, but we did start, we stagger started because of it.
Yeah. There's not a lot of people that usually are brave enough for that one. Do you remember how many people signed up?
I don't remember. I think maybe 30.
Yeah, not a lot of people. It's hard to get COVID in the desert, I bet. All right, I'm ready to talk about Silk Road.
Cool.
Why Silk Road? I mean, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's a long ways away. It literally looks like a whole nother planet. Why?
Yeah, I'd say a handful of things. There's number one, Kyrgyzstan just looks beautiful. Seeing all the stories from the prior iterations of Silk Road and seeing the landscape, I was really intrigued to do a bikepacking race on kind of like on a larger international scale outside of British Columbia. So that was a big selling point. An international field was really interesting to me. So just kind of, meeting a lot of like-minded people on international scale. And then the challenge that comes with it, the fact that it was, coming from after doing Utah, the next question was kind of like, all right, what do I do next? So in terms of like the intimidation factor and the challenge, Silk Road, came to mind immediately. I signed up in 2021. And pretty much after doing Utah, probably towards the latter end of 2020, and I ended up deferring 2021 because of COVID, and that's what got me to doing 2022.
Okay, Yeah, I saw on your blog that you were building your bike for the 2021 one, but you didn't do it. So I was curious what happened there. So you just pushed it back a year. So for you, are you looking to continually push yourself? Like you go have a Utah mixed epic experience and you're like, okay, what's the next level?
Mm-hmm. I'd say at that point, that's where my mindset was. At this point, since 2021, I'd say my mindset's changed a little bit, because leading into Silk Road, my training was pretty horrible. I didn't spend too much time training. I was kind of focusing on just like riding for the enjoyment of it, which led to not riding too much. And my mindset was kind of interested more so in getting into like touring, or kind of like exploring in a bike packing sense outside of the competition side of things. And so that's where my mindset is now. But I was still really interested in doing Silk Road, because I had signed up for it. A part of me was actually a little apprehensive about the aspect of racing in a country where, from all accounts that I had heard, everybody's incredibly hospitable and kind of like welcoming you into your home, into their home, for like, sleeping, food, drinks, that type of stuff. So a part of me was a little bit concerned about doing a competitive event through a country like that, and a culture where I may be feeling like I was dismissive.
Yeah. Well, can you speak to how your experience was then with that? I mean, I'm a person that kind of likes to slow down and smell the roses and appreciate the place that I'm in. And I sometimes question and it's a personal thing, right? Like I certainly wouldn't call anybody else for racing, but for me, I would struggle with that as well. It's like, okay, well, if I'm going to go there, I'm going to spend all this time and money, and I'm going to go into a person's hut. Well, do I want to go into their hut and like eat really fast and leave, or do I want to hang out with them for a little bit and hear a story or two, And so, with that kind of thought process, what was your experience like to actually go and race it?
Yeah, with that thought process, I felt comfortable while I was racing it. There were still people who were offering me a place to stay, a place to sleep. I would use my phone and Google Translate, because it has Kyrgyz language in Google Translate, and I tell them, hey, I'm doing a bike race right now from Osh to Bishkek, with like 250 other people. And so I'm focusing on just moving quickly, and a lot of times the reception would just be like, oh, that's super cool, and they'd ask me about the bike, they'd ask me where I came from, like where I'm going. So yeah, I felt pretty comfortable with it after kind of being immersed in the experience.
Did you get any kind of sense for how comfortable or how familiar the people along the race route are becoming? I mean, this is the third year. There's, at this point, there's probably been 300 or 400 riders that have gone through those roads and stuff. Like, did you get the sense they kind of knew what was going on and were comfortable with it, or?
I think for me, it helped that since I was kind of like mid-pack, it seemed like everybody was accustomed to it already. Like the marketplaces I came into, a lot of people were, it seemed, were pretty intrigued. There were some people that did recognize the race from prior years. But yeah, for me, it seemed like most of the people in the people who worked in the marketplaces and the stores were kind of just curious, but not always terribly surprised. That may be different for what the front of the race perception was.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think we should put Kyrgyzstan on the map for people listening and who maybe aren't familiar with the Silk Road. It's 1,120 miles and 100,000 feet of elevation. So, I mean, those are serious stats. But what really tells the story of this race for me is the landscape and the place that it is. And like I said earlier, I bet most people couldn't point it out on a map. I don't know if you could. But how would you describe Kyrgyzstan?
Yeah, I'd say vast landscapes, varied landscapes. There are times where I felt like I was in New Zealand. There are times I felt like I was in Utah. It's pretty incredible how quickly the scenery and the landscape can change. There's a place in Arslanabad, I think it's pronounced Arslanabad, right before that. It's the biggest walnut forest in the world, I believe. And leading to that, you're riding through 60 to 70 miles of this valley that is just like unbelievably expansive. So you feel like this little small dot in this valley, and then you get to this beautiful walnut forest. And
I was wondering if there was any trees. I've never seen a single tree on any of the videos that I've watched. So I'm happy to hear that they do have some trees, but
yeah, it can be hard to find shade sometimes.
Just wind and rain or whatever. What else? How about the roads? I think the roads have to be a defining feature of this route, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. The roads can be pretty rough. Day 2 was a pretty amazing day because there was about 60 to 70 miles of downhill tarmac. And so in my mind, it was kind of like a recovery day. I was just kind of just like rolling along the whole day. But other than that, the roads in the towns and outside of the towns are definitely kind of like pretty pockmarked. A lot of ruts, and it's not the most fun tarmac or road surface for a fully rigid bike.
Yeah, well, I on the video, the Wild Horses video, they're going up a old Soviet road that's just overgrown with grass, and it's just I assume just a dot on a map. Or a line on a map that you're following, it seems like. Did y'all run into? Is there a decent amount of those old roads, or is it mostly kind of more established roads?
Yeah, and a huge variety. There's really nice dirt single or really nice dirt double track. There was definitely plenty of kind of riding on just grass, like you said, where you're kind of following a breadcrumb track.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. It was really cool. Beautiful.
Did you was it difficult to navigate?
I wouldn't say so. Since most of the roads are pretty, or since most of the landscape was pretty expansive and there aren't too many kind of like intermingled or interconnected roads, navigation was pretty easy.
Okay. Yeah, there's not a lot of options. You get on the one road and you go through it. And as long as you're not going through a grass field, you kind of have a sense for where you're going. One thing I was thinking to circle back around about our that we were just talking about with, this idea of racing versus touring in an area, and to paint a good picture, not to just be negative against racing. I host a race. You like to race.
Yeah, definitely.
The cool thing about it is that it brings people to an area that would otherwise not be there. And I'm not sure exactly what it is about a race specifically that does that, but I've seen it with my own East Texas Showdown. I mean, you came down, we had people from all over the United States, and they all came and got a different perspective and appreciation for a place that was unfamiliar to them. And that is cool, and that happened through a race. And I know for a fact that like Kyrgyzstan was never on my radar. I wasn't Googling the Silk Road and wanting to understand the history of the Silk Road. And, so I think it does a lot of good, and it probably opens up a lot of people's idea to maybe touring in an area the way that, if you're just a guy that goes and ride it on your bike, probably doesn't have the same impact in terms of spreading the word of an area, so to speak. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there are definitely plenty of benefits to having a race in a different location because, like you said, it brings intrigue. It brings economy. So, I mean, that's 250 people bringing economy into these small towns and villages. So that's incredibly beneficial. And for me, I'm already craving going back to Kyrgyzstan and kind of just like experiencing it on a more personal level.
Yeah. What about it are you wanting to get more intimate with? The people, the landscape? Like what is drawing you back?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say all of it. People, landscape. I want to spend more time with the people because for me, one thing I would absolutely change about the way I went about the race is I camped every single night. I didn't stay in a guest house. I didn't stay in a yurt. And in my mind, I was trying to be efficient. But I think that kind of backfired, and it also limited my experiences because. Looking at Sofian's Instagram posts, he had mentioned that he slept 4 hours a night, and he stayed in guest houses. He stayed with people. So it's awesome to see that Sofian can be that competitive and still being able to enjoy like the people and the culture.
It doesn't make sense if you look at the dots. I don't know if you went back and watched the dots and you see Sofian, James, and Steven, create a huge chasm of a gap between the rest of the film. It was like
it's incredible.
I've never seen quite that big of a gap in one of these races. I was like, holy shit! But yeah, and the whole time he's doing social media and singing and
right.
He's a special guy, man, and I got to spend some time with him on the Tour Divide or at the end of the Tour Divide and just chatting, me and him, and that's something that I learned about him, a perspective that I never really realized and that he actually brought to my attention is how often are you in real time able to be involved in an experience of like a number one athlete of anything. I mean, a race car driver, a golfer, like you're not on course with them getting updates and whatever. Like, and that's something he does intentionally, I mean, he's busy, he's doing other stuff, but he's intentional about sharing those experiences with us. And I think we're pretty lucky to have that. But it's a perspective I never really realized because he's so good at it, so natural at it, that I never really, it just seems like it's natural, but it's actually something that he's intentional about doing, which is pretty neat.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm grateful for him doing that type of stuff too. I mean, just trying to do my own recording during the race. I know how exhausting it can be sometimes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Content creation is hard any way you slice it.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's challenging. And if you're trying to do it while you're bike packing, I mean, I've tried. I even recording a podcast. That's not stupid. It's another thing that you just have to do. It's another thing you have to carry. It takes your time and attention away from the other things that you may want to be doing. And for me, that's kind of the conflict. Like you, I don't want to be distracted from the experience I'm there to have. And, whipping out a recorder or whatever, it's not always the vibe that I'm looking for when when I'm doing that. And so, yeah, I think, yeah, it's worth acknowledging that people like that create this content and stuff. It's worthwhile, I think. Since you're talking about it, I know that you took a GoPro and a film camera. Are you planning on, I mean, obviously the film camera, you're probably just going to develop those, but with your GoPro, do you have any hopes and dreams for putting out like a little video about your experience, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna I'll put out like a little like recap or highlight video on my YouTube channel.
Were you able to keep with it enough to have enough content at the end? Or you're like me and you get halfway through and you're like, I'm sick of that.
Yeah, good question. I'd say I did okay. After looking back at it, after looking at the footage when I got home, I was like, oh man, this turned out better than I expected. I wish I recorded more because it was cool to get. I tried to do recaps, like brief daily recaps. I probably did it like 50% of the time, just like 2 to 3 minute recap. But it was awesome to see that, and I tried to get a lot of just like landscape footage.
Yeah, that's gonna be cool. I'll be looking forward to seeing that. I'm interested to know what your goal was going in, especially with the understanding that, I don't know, you were on this like kind of racy track and then you're like, oh, well, maybe I want to enjoy it. And you weren't training as hard as maybe you would have for Utah Mix Epic or whatever. So like, yeah, what were your goals? Oh, but the other interesting thing about that is that you also, when you were there, you were you were camping every night. So it seems like you were also like, once you were there, you were like, I am racing, I'm doing my best. So yeah, what was that like? What were your goals going into it?
Yeah, it's still hard for me to get away from like the competitive aspect. Yeah. So getting into it, I was going to be happy with like being in like the top 30. I'd say that was my goal. And so starting the race with the neutral rollout, I kind of just tried to position myself within the top 30. I was hoping for the best from that point. So yeah, goals were top 30 and then also trying to get under 10 days.
What was your training like for Silk Road?
I did the Stagecoach 400 earlier in the year. That was kind of like, I'd say like a litmus test to see what type of fitness I was in. After that, it was like a mixture of, I'd say a long ride of like 60 to 70 miles. I don't know, every couple weeks, and daily riding was, I probably rode like 15 to 30 miles, maybe like every other day or so. So
any cross training or just riding?
A little bit of running. Yeah. I still enjoy running. And
go ahead.
Oh, it's just easier for me. Like throw some shoes on, get out the door.
Yeah. I think it's good cross training for biking, especially if you're going to be in Kyrgyzstan and doing a lot of hike-a-bike. I mean,
definitely
using those muscles has got to be good. What about your preparation for going to another country, Kyrgyzstan? You don't know the language, you don't know a lot of stuff. You don't know probably what is it safe, all kinds of stuff. So like, what was your preparation like to prepare for going to a foreign land?
Yeah, I did a little bit of research just on the Facebook page, the Silk Road Mountain Race discussion page, just to see what people's recommendations were in terms of like food. Conan Tai had an awesome blog about like the food that was available in the iteration that he did. I wish that I did a little bit more research in terms of the language, because there's when you're in the cities, Russian is spoken a lot, but when you're in the countryside, it's Kyrgyz is the main language. They still speak Russian, I think, a little bit in the countryside because sometimes when people were trying to talk to me, they were like, "Ruski," and I was like, "No,
it's
sorry."
like if you live in Texas and we all speak a little bit of Hispanic, I mean, it's just kind of cultural.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. If you have a lot of those interactions, you're going to pick up some of the words and want to communicate and stuff. I do have to give you credit though. Like you've been nailing all the names, you've been saying all the names, the places you pass through and stuff. So you obviously were mindful of, knowing where you were and trying to like at least learn that,
Yeah. I learned thank you. Rakhmat.
And
I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. That's in Kyrgyz because every time I said it, kids would be laughing at me.
Maybe they just, I don't know, maybe you look funny or something. They're like, what is this guy doing? At least you try. I don't know. Yeah. Does that Google Translate work pretty well? I've never had the fortune to use it before, so I actually don't know how well it works.
It seemed like it worked pretty well just in terms of like the conversational side of things. I thought it was awesome because whenever I had service, if somebody was asking me questions, I could just, pull it out and I'd type and hand the phone over to them. They'd switch it to Kyrgyz and type. And so we just have like a text conversation that way. And it seemed like it worked pretty well. There were times where it seemed like the translation didn't directly come across because this one guy kept calling me like black sheep. And I'm like, I don't think he's trying to call me that, but
yeah, I'm not black or a sheep. And you don't know my familial situation. So I feel like that's not appropriate. Oh man. So going into it, fears, anxieties, did you have any? And if so, what were they?
Yeah, I'd say a little bit of concern over what I'd be eating because it seems like food poisoning is a common occurrence in the prior races, and so there's definitely concern there. A little bit of concern over the more remote parts of the race because there were sections where it was 100 plus miles with no services. So just making sure that I was well aware of when those places were coming up so I could properly resupply beforehand.
No safety concerns. I don't know the area very well. I mean, is that generally an issue or not really?
Not really. There were a couple instances during this year where some people were concerned about their safety. But I'd say in the grand scheme of things, it was a really low percentage. I had one instance where there was like a group of guys like mid-late 20s, and it seemed like they were kind of trying to intimidate me. But it also seemed like it was just like one of the guys trying to impress his friends. So it was just kind of like a quick instance, and I got on my way. But
was that in a city center or out in a more rural place?
It was leaving a city center, and I was going to a more like quiet gravel road. And as I was getting to the turn, there are these guys like hanging out by a fence, and as I was kind of approaching them, one of the guys started walking from the fence towards me, and I just like nodded at him and went to ride by, but he grabbed my bike and then he grabbed me and kind of like pulled me to a stop. So I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then
that's not the thought that would be going through my head.
Yeah. He did that, but then he held out his hand, shook my hand, and I was like, all right. So, friendly gesture. And he started demanding, he was asking for cart. I'm not sure whether it was Kyrgyz or Russian, but he was like, cart. And he was like gesturing a rectangle. So I was like, is he asking for like documents for like a card or like cash? I'm not sure. So I just
cigarettes.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know. I was just kind of like thinking worst case a little bit, especially because at that point he was still holding onto the bike and kind of blocking the direction I was going. Um, I think my girlfriend looked it up later and she said he was asking about a map. So maybe he was curious about where I was going. But one of his friends started walking towards me, and I was like, all right, this is interesting. We've got somebody else starting to engage now. And he walked up to my face and he said, run away now. And I was like, alrighty. So I just pulled the bike from the guy and, started going. And the guy laughed. His friend just walked back to the other guys. So I was like, all right, maybe they're just trying to mess with me.
Whoa. Yeah. It's just scary. You just don't know.
Yeah. It was kind of at night. The one benefit to it is it kept me up for a while.
I was about to ask what your adrenaline was like after that.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I tried to get some distance, and I meant to message Nelson just to give him a heads up, but I didn't have service for like the next 8 hours, so I couldn't get any message out.
Yeah. What's the safety protocol there? From the race perspective, obviously you have your Garmin, or actually this year y'all had, in reaches, I think, because there was an issue with the Ukrainian and Russian war, and it knocked out some satellites or something. What do you know the story there?
Not completely. I think that the Spot network, potentially because of sanctions, or there was like a satellite, maybe not sanctions, but there was one of their towers was down in Central Asia. I don't know the specifics. I know Nelson sent it in an email.
Yeah, like days before. I mean, it was a huge scramble. I've been on the phone with Map Progress, who's going to do our tracking for East Texas Showdown. I was just on the phone with him the other day, and so he was pretty involved in, I guess, helping with that situation and getting him back on the road. So because of that, y'all didn't have, y'all had in reaches. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, in reaches instead of the Gen 3s or whatever most people we usually use. But they work the same way. I mean, you have an emergency feature and all that stuff. So is that the safety protocol? What do they have in place for, instances when or if they do occur?
Yeah, there's if you're in like a dire situation, there's the SOS with the inReach. If there are situations where you feel unsafe or you're not able to proceed, but not a dire situation, then you can text or email Nelson or the the race organization. I know they helped some riders kind of like get a taxi if they had to scratch. So yeah, there's direct communication if needed.
If you have cell phone service.
Yeah. I think you were able to set up the inReaches to do messaging through satellite. You were able to, but I wasn't borrowing one of the race ones. I was borrowing a friend's. So I didn't set that up. I probably should have.
Was your girlfriend there the whole time?
Yeah, she was there. She flew out on the 17th, so about 5 days into the race.
Yeah, and then she just followed you around in a car as a support vehicle?
Totally, yeah. I was very fortunate.
Oh, that's funny. That's cool, though. So she came out to see you for the end of it, huh?
Yeah. Our goal was to she's been incredibly supportive in a lot of these races. So when I went to Utah, she went to Utah with me, and when I was doing the bikepacking race, she was out kind of doing her own exploration, biking herself with a friend and hiking, and then meeting me at the finish. She's done that for a few other races, and she's always wanted to go to Central Asia. So we thought this was a good opportunity to for me to do the race, and then for us to kind of spend a few days after the race, just kind of exploring Kyrgyzstan and Bishkek.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Let's talk about your bike real quick. I read, so you do have a pretty good blog. One thing that I think you're good at, I'm gathering you're a pretty detail-oriented guy. So your bike breakdown on your blog is pretty good, and it's really about how to build a bike for Silk Road. And I know that you signed up in 2021 and it got pushed to 22. So is that information still pretty current? And do you want to give and then also do you want to give like just the highlights of your bike and your gear list that you took?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say it's mostly current. It changed just a little bit, and I'd say the title of it was building a bike for the Silk Road Mountain Race, but I'd say ultimately my goal was to just like to build a bike that was kind of like a good Swiss Army knife of overall use, because it's pretty much the only bike I have. So my thought process was not going hardtail, because I wanted something to kind of use for like gravel riding, daily riding around town. If I was to build a bike that was really dedicated to Silk Road, I'd probably go with the hardtail.
Whereas you have more of a beefy gravel bike.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, it worked phenomenally. I was really happy with it. So it's a bolt cutter Peacemaker, Gravel Plus, and I've got a whiskey fork that takes 2.1 inch clearance for 29 inch tires. I was able to fit 29 by 2.2, and then the rear fits 2 inches. So for a gravel bike, it has pretty good clearance. I used Maxxis Icon tires, which were tremendous. No flats, no tire issues whatsoever.
Really? That's my favorite tire. Sponsor me.
Yeah.
That tire is I'm telling you, I've been using that tire. It's been around over 20 years that I've been using it, that tire. I mean, not exclusively, but all the way back to mountain bike single track days to, riding gravel or bike packing. I think that's a great tire.
Yeah. Yeah. I was blown away by the fact that I had no issues. It was pretty incredible.
That was one of my questions of how many flats you got. It wasn't, did you get flats? My question was going to be, how many did you get? So, I only know what you know from watching the videos, but you watch the videos and mechanicals and flats, and you look at the terrain, it's not surprising. Like you would expect to have issues, So you built a bulletproof bike. The bolt cutter is bulletproof. Yeah,
it definitely was for this instance. I had, I was running 1x11 SRAM Rival. There were, in terms of the chain, there were some issues just with dirt and dust. It started getting a little chunky, and shifting was a little off periodically, but I'd say that's just kind of like, run of the mill instance for that. All I had to do was take a rag to it and rinse it off, throw on some lube, and it was good to go. I never had to adjust like indexing or anything for the shifting.
Nice. What about dynamo, or are you running battery powered? What's your power bank situation and your charging situation look like?
Yeah, I had a Shutter Precision dynamo hub, and a sine wave beacon headlight, which allowed me to charge some stuff via the USB port. And then in terms of cache batteries, I had one 10,000 milliamp and another 5,000 milliamp. That's where the charging situation was a little iffy, and that's where my thought process in terms of periodically like staying at guest houses would have would have helped because the terrain was significantly slower than I expected, especially on some of the mountain passes where we were doing hike-a-bike. So a lot of times I couldn't rely on the dynamo to charge my power banks or anything.
Yeah, so what did you do? Were you able to maintain the power that you needed, or did you wind up? I guess you said some of the roads are just long, but yeah, did you run into any issues, or were you able to just kind of squeak by?
I mostly squeaked by. I did run into some issues where the majority of the time I never listened to any music. I had to keep my phone off because it was like constantly between like 5 to 10% battery.
Yeah. So you needed that for emergencies, essentially, just in case something you really needed a phone.
Yeah, for like emergency call or like emergency backup mapping.
So what is one item that you wish you brought and one item that you brought that you didn't need?
Oh, let's see. One item I wish I brought would be a helmet mounted light.
Oh, yeah.
Because I had a flashlight that's kind of like a Phoenix flashlight, but I didn't have a good helmet mount to it. So that would have been really nice for the hike-a-bike sections where the dynamo wasn't able to, fully power the light. The hike-a-bike sections or just like the slow climbs, because the dynamo would just kind of be like going in and out, and that got really annoying. And
I'm already hallucinating, and now I've got like a strobe light effect.
Yeah, exactly. And having the flashlight mounted to the bike when you're going really slow, especially when you're kind of like weaving going uphill, that gets annoying.
Yeah, it gets bumpy and all over the place. Okay. Yep. So you wish you brought a helmet light with a mount. That's yeah. I feel like for a detailed oriented person, you should have figured that out before you left. I got to say, Seth.
Yeah, I did not test that setup.
You messed that up big time.
I sure did.
Hey, you got some experience by bike though, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly. I lived up to it.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
All right. So what's one that you brought and that you didn't need, if there was anything?
Yeah, one thing I brought that I didn't need would be, let's see. I decided to omit my insulated sleeping mat. And I went with I think it was a Gossamer Gear, like 1/8 inch foam pad. I probably wouldn't bring that because I used it, but it wasn't very effective. And I think going back to the, sleeping at a guest house periodically, that would be a lot more effective just in terms of like getting good sleep. I'm pretty
not use a pad at all.
Yeah, I think so.
Was the ground soft enough? You just find like a patch of grass or what?
Most of the time, yeah. There were some nights where it was pretty cold, where it would be useful. I definitely don't recommend that for everybody, but for me, I'm able to. I was pretty well insulated with. I had a little kind of like Polartec Alpha base layer, and then my puffy jacket, and then my sleeping bag. So it was good enough insulation for me on the ground.
Yeah. What is something you learned from doing the race that Utah Mixed Epic and all your research didn't prepare you for?
Things can always be slower than you expect.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Oh man. Just slow going. Just slow. What made it slow? What made it slow?
Yeah, for me, what made it slow was the terrain for sure. So there was the first pass, which was what was it called? Gyptic Pass. And then the last pass, Shamsi Pass. Really, really, really slow hike-a-bike. Took all day. Felt like all day. And then also just getting sick. I got food poisoning the first 2 days. And then I think day like 6 through 8, I just had horrible diarrhea.
Yeah, yeah. That's yeah, the one thing that I got, well, not the only thing, but the your stomach troubles had to play like a huge factor. And so let's talk about your stomach. What happened? I mean, it started from like the very beginning of the race almost, it seems like, or before, or yeah, what happened?
Yeah, I was feeling the day before the race, I was feeling completely fine. And then I woke up and felt a little bit nauseous. Got to the start of the race, and like I said, kind of the beginning of the neutral rollout. I was trying to stick in like the top 30 just to stay within like my goal position. And within the first hour, I started like sweating profusely. I had like hot sweats, cold sweats, felt really weak, and then I just started throwing up. So first hour I started throwing up, and then the second hour, I thought I had kind of like emptied the system, and so I started drinking water and electrolytes, and my body like profusely rejected that. So it was kind of, I started throwing up, but it was more like exorcism style. And so from day 2 and 3, I just had a horrible headache in the back of my head. Those were the last bouts of throwing up. But I just had a horrible headache, and the back of my neck, the tendons were really tight and sore.
Probably from throwing up so violently.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've had food poisoning where I've described it as an exorcism, where it feels like you're possessed and your body's just, and the next day I was sore from throwing up so hard, so aggressively that my body ached. Yeah. My back was sore. Food poisoning I think most people probably experienced it at some point in their life. It is not a joke. So it's pretty crazy that, I saw your miles. I know the first day you only did like 100 something miles. The next day you did like 150, but you say only 100. I know 100 was more than your goal, but you're doing that in over, what is it? Gyptic Pass.
Yeah.
You have food poisoning over Gyptic Pass, which is 13,730 feet. That's crazy.
Yeah. It was not a fun experience getting up to that 13,700 feet.
Was there ever a part where you were thinking about pulling in the towel? I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What kept you from? What prevented you from doing it?
Yeah,
that's a legitimate excuse.
Yeah, totally. So I woke up on day 2 and still feeling pretty horrible. But there's a town that we were getting into, Sorry Mogul. So I was just like, all right, get into town and kind of reassess from that point. So I got into town and I got there, I'd say probably like 9:30 a.m. And I ended up having service. So I called my girlfriends, Naya, and I was like, hey, this is rough. This is pretty horrible. I've just been throwing up all of yesterday and have a terrible headache. I was like, if it keeps going like this, I'm not sure if it's worth continuing. And she's like, yeah, I support you in whatever decision you choose. If you want to stop or keep going. She was arriving on Friday. So I was like, yeah, if it keeps going, then, I'll just scratch and we can do our own kind of, travel extravaganza.
That's a big temptation.
Super tempting.
Yeah. It's even more impressive you stuck in it. So
yeah. So at that point I was just like, I think that was Tuesday maybe. But I was just like, just make it, just keep going. Take this day as it is and try to make it to Friday. And kind of reassess. So it was constantly just a state of like, get to this next point, reassess, get to this next point, reassess. While at the same time trying to be as kind of like like kind to my body as possible. So, taking in water. On the first day, I could only eat 2 granola bars. On the second day, I was able to get 3 down and some ice cream. Yeah, but fortunately, it was like I mentioned, day 2 was mostly downhill. So that was, I'd say, a really kind of a saving grace in terms of being able to recover during that time.
Yeah, no kidding. It doesn't make sense that you were able to keep going if you extract all of the calories out of your body and you're doing something at elevation that's very physically demanding. Your body is burning everything you have and you're not taking on food or water. Yeah. Like the fact that I mean, you know this, I'm sure, as an outdoors person, dehydration, throwing up, these are some of the things that it's the building blocks to failure, essentially, right? Like these are the things where you can't really recover because you're still going, you're not taking in the food and water you need, so your body is depleted and you just keep depleting. It's not often that I'm aware of where people are able to kind of recover from that. I mean, no shade to Scotty, but Scotty had, stomach issues on this year's race and had to pull out. And I think that is the common narrative, is once you get into that situation, your ability to recover is so much harder. You were aware of all that, I'm sure, while you were going through it.
Yeah. That's why I'd say, in terms of like the mental state, my mode was just like, recover, be kind to your body. Most of the time when I was riding, leaving that town, sorry, Mogul, it was on road. And I mean, my heart rate was maybe like 90 to 105. That's the limited amount of effort I was putting in, which still felt like a lot of effort.
Oh, no kidding. So you went up, where were you at in your illness and crossing Gyptic Pass?
So crossing Gyptic Pass, that was kind of, I'd say, like mid stages, because I started feeling better beginning of day 3. And Gyptic Pass was, I think I got to the summit of Gyptic Pass around 9:30 on the first day.
Where did you go in your mind? Like how did you get through that? I'm gonna guess that you've never ridden or pushed your bike over 13,000 feet before in your life. You're in a foreign country. You have food poisoning. You're on day 1 and you're doing Gyptic Pass. Like, how did you do that? Do you it's super tough?
Yeah. I would say it's, with the help and support of everybody around me. Just in terms of the fact that, I knew other people were dealing with this, and, maybe people weren't dealing with food poisoning, but, they were dealing with their own issues. We've all got our own story, during these races. And I was kind of like ping-ponging with a lot of people as we were going up Gyptic Pass, where, I'd find shade and kind of like rest for 7 minutes, and somebody would pass me, and then I'd start moving, and then I'd pass them as they're resting. So it's just like, we're all in this together, trying to move up this. And
so when you see other people crying and throwing up and taking a nap, you're like, okay, we're all struggling.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's what you sign up. Yeah. The dehydration and throwing up, it adds another element that is real and scary. And I'll say it again, most people can't bounce back from that. So I don't know exactly what it says about you, but you're not a quitter. And that's, I mean, just to overcome that first day with that kind of a challenge is really impressive. So, let's conclude the sickness, at least part of your story. So, it just ran its course and you got to feeling good again, or what happened?
Yeah, pretty much. I'd say, kind of like day 3, early to mid day 3, I was able to start, you know, I had an appetite, so I was able to start eating and got, you know, really or I guess just really really hungry. The appetite came back, and I was able to eat a lot, you know, drink a lot, and so you know, recovery kind of started going, and from there, I kind of felt like I got some power back. I was able to, you know, to ride the bike and put some power into the pedals rather than just kind of coasting along.
No, it's for you, it was a 12-day effort. So it still just amazes me that you're able to recover. And do you feel like you were having to make up and put in extra calories for all the calories that your body didn't get? And did you have like a surplus of food on your bike because you had 3 days of not eating? So you're like, well, I got a lot of food to eat.
Yeah, I definitely had food left over from day 1 and 2.
Yeah. So once you could eat, you just started cramming as much in as you could.
Right. Yeah. And the benefit is I brought food that I knew worked for me. Because I wasn't sure what I'd get in markets. So, you know, just like Cliff Bars, gummy bears, that type of stuff. So all that was pretty easy to get down.
Do you know what gave you food poisoning?
I don't. I ate at a restaurant the night before, and that was the first time I tried I think it's pronounced kumis, and which is fermented horse milk. And so as we sat down, they gave the group, everybody got a shot of it. And so I was like, this is probably a bad idea to try for the first time the night before. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's initiated it.
It's a tough situation because, you don't want to be rude or anything and like offend them or, you know, I mean, so.
Yeah.
So cumin or whatever. Yeah, I watched, people have probably seen it, but Wild Horses, the documentary that they made about Silk Road, there's a guy milking a horse and I'm like, I didn't even know you could do that. I thought we did that to cows, sheep, goats, but I didn't know about the horses. So and you got to drink it. How is it? Is it good?
It wasn't too bad.
Does it taste like milk?
It's interesting. It's a little pungent. It was warm. Yeah, tasty. It's pretty prolific. People sell it on the streets, on the side of the road. So it's everywhere. If you want to try it, it's
it's not pasteurized.
Right. Yeah. Nice and raw.
This, one interesting thing about Silk Road is that they start it at midnight. So I'm curious, you know, why do they do that? Just for fun? And how did that impact you at all, if any, you know, your strategy to the race?
Yeah, that was primarily because of Gyptic Pass. Because Nelson wanted people to be able to get through the pass during the daytime. For me, I got there at 9:30 p.m. So I got there like just to the summit, just as it was getting dark. And I'm pretty glad about that. I think it worked out well in that manner, because I think I was a little bit more back of the pack at that point. So it was pretty helpful to be able to see what was happening, where you were going, because it was really, really rocky. And you know, a lot of the single track and rocky sections, you had to lift your bike a lot. Yeah,
did it mess you up with like sleeping or anything?
A little bit. I know a good amount of people just you know, kept riding through the night and through the day. So they had maybe like a 30 or 40 hour span of riding without sleep. But for me, just because I was feeling so awful, I ended up taking a 45-minute nap from like 5 to 5:45 in the morning, just hoping that could kind of like reset me a little bit.
And did it? Well, we know
not
it
really.
did eventually. Yeah, not until day 3.
Yeah, it took some time to work.
Yeah, well, food poisoning is no joke. Was there ever a point where, I mean, obviously, man, the first few days, I don't even know how you survived. It's just like a war of attrition. I'm sure that detracted from the experience a little bit. But did you get to a point where you could like just enjoy the experience and your body and just kind of enjoy it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'd say day 3 to like day 7 was pretty awesome. I was feeling pretty strong, slowly kind of like moving up through the field, where I'd kind of ride as much as possible during the day. A lot of the times around the beginning of the race, it was really hot during the day, like 90s. So I'd ride pretty easy during the day, and then I'd ride a little harder at night and try to ride a little bit longer. So I kind of tried to catch up with the field just by doing a little bit more night riding and a little bit more rest, or a little bit less sleep. And that seemed to work for a good amount of the time. I got to.
So did you go back into race mode? I mean, you were in just hang in and see if you can make it till Friday mode, but now you're back in race mode and trying to pull in the field if you can.
Yeah. By the third day, I was like, all right, it's kind of past now, so time to keep moving. Let's see what I can do.
What was your sleep strategy going in, and what, I mean, aside from, we know you slept in the bivvy and camped every night, but how many hours a night were you planning, and what did you actually wind up doing?
My goal was to sleep about 4 hours a night, just because, I don't know, based on what I've seen with longer races, that seems to kind of be the sweet spot for. It
really does.
People.
That's the number everybody says, like 4, right, maybe 5, but it seems like the 4 is the number. It's interesting. I wonder who started that. Someone's gonna have to start the 3, and then everybody's gonna have to adjust.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. It does seem like that 4 hours for long events, for multiple weeks, that 4 hours seems to be the number that works for the most amount of people, that you can, I guess, function as much as you need to. Did you find that, well, I'm taking words out of your mouth, but is that what worked for you, or did it not work? Did it backfire?
Yeah, it worked okay. I'd say I either slept through my alarm more than I expected, or completely forgot to set an alarm. There was one time I woke up and my phone was next to me with like the alarm screen up. So I was like, oh, I was close, but
I was close. I was almost there. It's like, oh, put it away. So you got some bonus hours in there, bonus minutes or something.
Yeah. I definitely got more bonus hours than I had planned. But I think,
does that bother you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say earlier on in the race, I was completely fine with it, because I was like, my body needs to recover. So just take those hours and make it up during the day, maybe. Yeah,
that was going to be my question. So sometimes if you're that tired, you just need to sleep. And it sounds like you did a pretty good job of listening to your body through the process and managing it the best that you could in a really tough environment. What was it like to finish, if you can put 12 days into words, going through everything that you did? What state were you in at the finish line?
I was about 12 pounds lighter.
And 1 pound a day.
Yeah. Yep.
And you're not a big guy, for anybody listening.
No. I started out at about 155 pounds.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I felt a lot weaker. I definitely felt like my body had kind of like cannibalized some of my muscles. Over the past 2 nights, I had only slept for about 20 minutes. So it was incredibly relieving, incredibly exciting to be at the finish. The welcome was awesome. Nelson was there. As I rolled up, Nelson was there. My girlfriend Naya was there. A bunch of people were there that I had kind of like been riding with back and forth. and it was at a bar. The finish was, I forget what it was called, but it was just an awesome little spot to hang out for a while before I started crashing.
All of the best races end at a bar. That's
yep. Like the East Texas Showdown.
Just like the East Texas Showdown. Yeah. Are you proud of yourself? I mean, obviously you didn't make your goal that you had set out. I mean, you had a 10-day goal and a 30, top 30 finish, and it was 37 and 12 days. But obviously you were dealing with some shit, literally.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, what you're reflecting on it now, and what do you think? Are you pretty satisfied with that overall?
Yeah, definitely. I'm really happy with it because there were so many times during the race, like beginning latter stages, where I was ready to just throw in the towel. But I'm really happy with the fact that I was just like, just keep moving forward, regardless of whether it's as fast as you expect it, as you wanted it to be. I'd say one thing in terms of my mental state, one thing that really helped was getting to checkpoint 3. Because at that point I was still kind of in the like the race mindset. But I had slowed down because of stomach issues. And I was like, all right, I'm going to get to checkpoint 3. And I know some people are going to be a little bit slower at the checkpoint because they're going to like take their time getting food and stuff. So I'm just going to get there, get my card stamped, and then start moving, so I can make up the field. But I got there significantly later than I expected. I thought I was going to be there between like 10 midnight, and I got there at 4 a.m. And pretty much everybody there was a group of about 20 people. Maybe like 10 to 20 people that had their bikes kind of set up along the yurts, and the majority of people were just like hanging out and sleeping. And so I get to the checkpoint, I check in, and my girlfriend's there. So that was pretty amazing to have her show up. And yeah, I wasn't sure. I know she said she was going to try to make it, but okay. I never had service for like a day and a half or so. So that was amazing to see her. And then the volunteer, he was like, hey, we've got breakfast at 5. So if you want to hang around, you can get some breakfast. And I was like, well, I'm not going to just like leave. I'd love to spend some time with Naya, and breakfast sounds amazing. So I took a 20-minute nap and had some breakfast, and it was awesome to be able to hang out with a bunch of other riders in the morning, just talking about our experiences from all the prior days and what we've all went through. And everybody was just enjoying time together, enjoying breakfast, and nobody was like in a rush to try to leave the checkpoint before anybody else. So that really helped with my kind of like change my mindset to just being like, this is, rather than like a race against other people, this is largely a challenge just for myself. So enjoy what you're doing, enjoy the challenge, take it for what it is, for what it throws you. And yeah, just embrace the ride.
Yeah. Good advice. To piggyback on that, it's easy to say that now, but before checkpoint 3, mm-hmm. you had a lot of struggles and low moments, I'm sure. Can you put into words what you did or how you were able to stay in the race? And yeah, I mean, how were you able to stay in it mentally, physically? Mostly mentally, probably. I'm sure. I mean, at this point, your body's wrecked and wants to quit, but like, how do you convince yourself to just stay in it?
Yeah, I think the thing I can attribute most to just like continuing is just trying to find the joy in being out on the bike and being in those landscapes. So the joy of whether it was riding with somebody for a while. There's a guy named Josh from London who I rode with for a while, and really helped lift my spirits. Just being able to ride with somebody else, share some stories. There's a moment where I was going through that valley that I'd mentioned that was 60 or 70 miles long, and I had ridden with Josh prior to that, but he kind of rode away from me for a while, and I was nursing a little bit of a knee injury, so I fell back, and I was just taking my time. And there was a sheep herder that saw me, and he was like, "Woo!" as I rode by, and so I just wooed back to him, and he giggled, and then he wooed louder, and so I wooed again. And then we just started howling back and forth to each other. So I was just kind of so like good. Riding for like 5 to 10 minutes until I couldn't hear him, where we were, just like howling at each other.
Did you get that on GoPro?
No, I didn't. That would have been awesome. Yeah.
Well, that one will live in your mind and on this podcast, but that's a nice moment.
Yeah.
So that lifted your spirit, or just finding joy just in little interactions like that.
Yeah, exactly. During some of the hike-a-bike sections, I did some like dancing or skipping up the hill.
Someone else on the podcast, Nick Marzano, was talking about how he did a dance on the Tour Divide coming up one pass or something. If you got to dance and sing, it keeps not in Kyrgyzstan, I'm assuming, but in Tour Divide, it might keep the bears away,
Yeah.
So
make some noise.
There's some value in singing and dancing when you're on the Tour Divide. What's something that you wish someone told you before you went to the Silk Road?
Oh, let's see. I would say learn the languages better. Put together some like flashcards of like some general sayings or general terminology or vocabulary. I think that'd be really helpful, because I really, when it was more remote, I would have loved to be able to just interact a little bit better with people. There was a point where I was getting to a climb where it was, I'd say probably midnight, and I had stopped to take off my puffy jacket because I was getting hot. And out of nowhere, this guy appears on horseback. And
like the Lone Ranger?
Yeah, totally. I was like kneeling down, taking off clothes, and out of the corner of my eye, I see like this massive feature above me. And
it freaked you out at first?
Yeah, definitely.
You're like, horses don't normally sneak up on people. I don't think they're pretty big and loud.
Yeah, I had my headphones in, and I was like blasting music, trying to keep myself awake.
Wait a second, you said you didn't listen to much music, so that was one of the very rare times that you did.
That was one of the minimal times. Yep.
Yeah, so just trying to stay awake, using it as emergency to stay awake. Do you do anything else to stay awake on the topic? Do you ever take caffeine pills or cocaine or anything?
I do. Caffeine pills. I crush up the caffeine pills. No, just kidding. Yeah. I did have some caffeine pills. I try to stay away from using it because I crash really hard if I start utilizing caffeine pills. So music, if I'm able to. I actually really like tea tree oil toothpicks. Because
not familiar with that. I mean, I know what tea tree is, but go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're just toothpicks infused with tea tree oil. They're awesome because if you're, I'm brushing my teeth on a daily basis, but with the amount of like crap that I'm eating, they really help kind of clean out your mouth. And the tea tree oil is really like astringent. So it kind of keeps me awake just because it's so strong. So I do that, and then like singing or howling at night. I find that fun. Yeah.
Why not, man? Have you ever, not maybe for bike pack racing, but have you ever smelled smelling salts?
No, I haven't.
I just got smelling salt like last week.
Oh man.
And just to try it out, like honestly, just dumb curiosity. It's just the way I am. I'm like, I wonder what that smells like.
Yeah.
It's very strong. But people use it for like working out, like weightlifting competitions and stuff to like kind of get jacked before you do it. I think, I mean, and you can get, it's just like in a little bottle.
Okay.
I'm just putting this out there on the Bikes for Death podcast airways. If someone wants to go try it, I think it could really help. There's no, because it's the stuff that like you're like passed out or whatever, and they stick in front of your face, and you cannot not have a reaction to it. It will bring you snap to,
Oh, interesting.
But I've never heard of anyone using it in endurance sports. They use it in like weightlifting is the only arena I've seen people that use it. So anyway, yeah, random tip for me, with very little science to back it up. And that is the Bikes for Death podcast. No, but I do think it would work. I don't do a lot of the racing. I do the bike packing, and sleeping is a part of that. So I haven't found myself in a position where I need to be, slapping myself or singing or whatever. But we might start selling the Bikes for Death labeled smelling salt soon for ultra endurance athletes around the world. Well, I wanted to talk to you about ETS real quick. Was there anything else about Silk Road that we didn't touch on that you think needs to be touched on?
No, I mean, I think we touched on a good amount.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. I think it's an amazing challenge. The culture is incredible. Everybody is incredibly welcoming. I really liked what Sofian said in regards to the fact that the Kyrgyz people live in some pretty tough conditions, and they're always going to be welcoming to kind of like making sure you're warm and comfortable if you're out in the countryside, and just getting to know you better. It was amazing how welcoming people were, and the kids out there are really hilarious, and they're just kind of fun to be around.
Yeah. When you go back, do you already have plans to go back? Like, have an idea when you will, or is it just something that's on your mind after having gone?
Yeah, just something on my mind at this point.
Yeah. Do you think you'll do the same route, or do you think that you'll just go and bike and tour the area and, immerse yourself more in the people and the culture?
Yeah, definitely doing more of a tour. I'm not going to touch a chip ticket again on a bike.
That was a one and done, huh?
Definitely.
Well, you did it with food poisoning. Now you got to do it without food poisoning,
Yeah, it'll be so much easier.
Yeah, it's so much easier. Just ask all the other people that did it. Well, yeah, well said. I mean, I'm happy to hear all that. It's a beautiful, beautiful landscape. There's no doubt it's an extremely tough and challenging route, the conditions, the weather, the remoteness. But I like to hear, I love to hear about the people and the culture. And it even makes me more excited to go out there. And I hope I get a chance to kind of experience it myself. Maybe we go out there together and do a little media team, huh? That'd be cool.
Oh, absolutely. That was my thought after finishing. Like, maybe I'll come back and do some form of media.
Well, we'll maybe, I don't want to be in competition with you. Maybe we'll see if Liam will let us come out and tag along or something.
Yeah.
Well, not to be outdone, I think we should talk about the second most popular race in the world, the East Texas Showdown.
Oh yeah, registration's opening up.
Yeah, registration is open now. Go, and hopefully by the time this episode comes out, registration is full, and I'm happy and sorry if you didn't get in. So I'm curious, like, I have a couple questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
You reached out to me, and whenever, like, as soon as I announced East Texas Showdown this year, like the day it was announced, you're like, hey, do you have it was probably like in the first 5 minutes. You sent me a message and like, hey, do you have a media crew yet? Or, anyone doing a film yet? I said, no, not yet. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's super flattering that you came all the way out from Portland to cover our little event. I'm really curious though, like what drew you in? Like what interested you? There's a lot of bikepacking races that you could go cover. Texas is far away. It's not of interest from an outdoor recreation standpoint to most people. I'm curious, like what about it made you wanted to come and document it?
Yeah, I'd say largely the community aspect, because I think you're really good at fostering community. And the fact that you not only focused on like the showdown or race, but the slowdown as well, that where it's beginner friendly, enjoyment friendly. So people could choose to race, or they could choose to have their experience. That really intrigued me, being able to document that variety. And it was awesome. Like the people are just amazing. That community was great.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm not just saying that because it's my race, but other people tell me that, and I believe them. But I mean, I've been overwhelmed, and I'm there. I'm feeling the same thing. I'm like, yeah, this is fucking awesome. I mean, just because it's my party doesn't mean I can't also like step back and be like, wow, this is cool, And I appreciate that. I'm really, really, really glad to hear that is what attracted you and made it interesting, because that is the focus. That is what I hope is our secret sauce, is making it community centric, welcoming, easy, not easy, challenging, but easy in terms of feeling welcome, feeling like it's doable. The route's a little bit more obtainable for a lot of people. And I don't know if you know this, but this year we're actually adding a third event. So we're doing the Lowdown, which is 170 miles. And it's not a race at all. It's a non-competitive ride with it's not really mandatory, but a highly encouraged group camp spot with bonfire and beers. And then you wake up the next day and you finish off the rest with everyone. And so we're just doubling down on the community. It's like non-competitive, just come ride, not a crazy distance. Then you can go to the 280, and then the showdown is 400 miles this year. So we added 20 miles, and you can push yourself that way. And so, I like the idea of creating an event that is appealing, welcoming, and cast a very wide net. And the cool thing is that when you get all the racy people and all the people that want to smoke weed and smell the flowers or whatever, and we all get, and dude, it's a great time, So
definitely, yeah.
I'm curious. So what surprised you about the race or Texas, if anything? And it could be surprised you in a good or bad way. It's open.
Sure. I'd say, again, everybody's super welcoming. I've got a lot of people that I'm still in touch with on Instagram from the race, and a lot of people that were messaging me during the Silk Road that I had met.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So that was really great. I am really grateful for that. I would say the thing that I found really cool was how the non-cycling community was really receptive to the race and to the riders in general. Like the workers at Family Dollar, they were like, "Oh, this is amazing! This is so cool!"
Mm-hmm.
And curious where everybody was coming from. Yeah, Miss Sue.
Yeah, me and her are friends on Facebook now. Like I was just messaging her the other night, and she's like living in Houston with her mom. She like quit her job. Yeah, these people are great, man.
That's so cool.
Sue. Shout out, Sue.
Definitely. Before I had seen you when I got to the Bullet Grill, I just sat down, and there was a group of guys that were talking at a table next to me. And one of these guys was, I'd say they're kind of like, maybe like in their 50s and 60s. And one guy was just like, oh, what are all these cyclists doing here? And this other guy, started explaining to him, like what the race was, what self-supported bikepacking was, all from like what he had found out in the prior year. And I was like, man, this is really cool to be able to see people who are not actually participating in the sport, starting to get like involved and engaged and excited to kind of like talk about the sport with other people.
And who you're describing are backcountry hillbillies,
right,
also known as rednecks. And I mean it with all love and respect. I mean, they're great people, but yeah, I mean, just this is not their world, man. They live in the woods. They live out in the country. This very rural, and that is the part I didn't expect. I had no idea that the community, and not just Bullet Grill, but everywhere along the route, was going to be so receptive and welcoming. And like the manager of Brookshire Brothers, which is a grocery store, he found me on Facebook somehow and messaged me after the event. He was like, dude, I wish I knew we would have like done whatever you wanted and all this stuff. And so next year they're going to be like helping out. And it's just, I mean, even down to like national forests, like the, your film, you'll like this. So I was on the phone with the U.S. National Forest Service, because it goes through two national forests, Davy Crockett and Sam Houston. And we are permitted. That's like a big thing for me, is to be like a good example, especially in Texas where public land is so limited. I want to do things the right way. I want the community to want us there. I want cyclists and bike packers to be a good thing for the area. I want this to be a positive thing, because if we want to grow bike packing, if we want to grow cycling and all this, then we need those positive interactions. We need, the hillbilly at Bullet Grill to be like, oh yeah, that's one of those guys. Yeah, that's cool. Oh no, man, those guys ride like 300 miles, man.
Totally,
we need
yeah.
that. And I think that's so cool. And so I was talking to my guy over at the Forest Service, and we're getting all the permitting going for 2023. And I said, did we send you, and I meant to send it to him and I failed, but I was like, did we send you the film that they did on the showdown? He said, no, there's a film. I said, yeah. It's like, it's really good. He's like, yes, please send it to us. He's like, we would love to promote this event as a way to recreate outside and in the national forest. And
that's awesome.
That, from a government official in charge of, public lands in Texas, where we're less than 3%, is huge. That they're excited and they're wanting to help. I mean, they want this to be there, which I hope also speaks to this community at large. That is what I told them whenever I went to the Forest Service. I said, these are the kinds of people that you want recreating on public lands. They're respectful.
Right.
They understand leave no trace. They understand respecting wildlife and nature and all the things, like the things that, and I believe by and large that is the case. I don't think you can put yourself in these environments and ride through them and not care about them. I think it's probably nearly impossible to do that. And luckily everybody's been bought in. So it's been a really cool experience, and yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. I can't wait for 2023. So what is, like, after Silk Road, what do you think your approach to cycling is going forward? Do you have some other, maybe not events, but trips or something that you're like looking forward to or thinking about?
Yeah, I've never really done the touring side of things. So my girlfriend Naya and I have never really done any like big bike packing trips together. So I'd like to, I'd really love to do like an international trip with her, whether it be like Portugal, or her father's side is from Bolivia. So that's something we've kind of talked about a little bit, riding through Bolivia.
Yeah. Have you done any other international travel besides Kyrgyzstan?
Just the race in British Columbia, and I've traveled in Baja, Mexico a little bit.
Yeah. I just got my passport last week. Wanting to do
that's
more.
Awesome.
Yeah. I want to do, I mean, personally, but also for the podcast, like,
yeah,
I really want to go cover Silk Road. I want to go to the Italy Divide. I want to go check out Baja Divide. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there. I read a quote recently. The world is a book, and those who don't travel read only one page. And I'm like, well, I want to read the whole book. I don't want to read just one page. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Definitely.
Yeah, pretty good. Touring really appeals to me, especially on an international trip. It just seems like it forces you. You're not in a car. You have to interact with people and all that. It just seems like a great way to do that and have that kind of experience.
Yeah, and for me, in terms of like the photography and videography side of things, it merges a lot better too. If I want to be able to document the trip.
That's very true. Yeah. So you could do, you could be one of those, you could do a bikepacking travel blog or vlog or whatever, something like that. And
I'd definitely love to do that.
I would too, but I don't want to edit video. That's where you lose me.
Understandable.
You have to record a lot of video, and it's a lot of work. So I have a lot of respect for y'all video people. All right, man. Well, we got chatty. I was pretty excited about Silk Road. I'm not gonna lie. I really would like to get out there, and so I appreciate you coming on and sharing your experience. And congrats on finishing it with really hard circumstances. It's considered maybe the hardest bikepacking race in the world. I don't know who makes those decisions, but it's definitely in the conversation. So congratulations, man.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate the time as well. This has been awesome.
Yeah. Well, we'll catch you down the road. Either you got to come to Texas or I'll come to Oregon, but we'll have to cross paths again here soon, hopefully.
Definitely. Oh yeah.
All right. Take care, buddy.
Thanks. Will do. You too.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode, and a huge shout out to my friend Seth for coming on to share his experience. Before we wrap up today's show, just a couple of quick reminders that the East Texas Showdown is going to be opening up 36 more spots this Saturday, September 10th at 2 p.m. For more information, head over to bikesfordeath.com and click the ETS link at the top, and we will see you in March. Also, don't forget, if you want to get yourself a fresh pair of Ombras, Ombras is making it easy for BoD listeners. Use the code BOD20 at checkout and get $20 off your order and send $20 to your favorite podcast. Before we wrap up today's show, I'd like to leave you with a quote. This one comes from Jack Kerouac, and it says, "Because in the end, you won't remember the time you spent working in the office or mowing your lawn. Climb the goddamn mountain." And I hope Jack wouldn't mind if I said, climb that goddamn mountain on your bike. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. It is always a pleasure. Until next week, you know what to do. Go ride your damn bike.
It was the middle of the night. You grabbed your knife and you held it tight. The sounds of beasts kept you awake. The sounds they made kept you afraid. In the morning, you packed your bike. Memories forgotten from the previous night. You rode faster than ever before. Was it your imagination or merely folklore? Fear turned into strength as you pushed further. Every pedal stroke stronger and firmer. Your bike feels weightless, your legs aren't tired. You think to yourself, just a few more miles. Bikes for death, bikes